Right now, a severe outbreak of foot and mouth disease is tearing through South African cattle farms. 9 out of 9 provinces report active infections, and farmers find themselves trapped under strict quarantine orders with no legal way to move or sell their livestock. The state's veterinary services lack the capacity to control the spread, yet the government is actively blocking critical private intervention. Agricultural companies have already secured millions of vaccine doses and readied their own cold storage supply chains. They are prepared to deploy these resources independently. The drive to build parallel systems reaches deep into South African civil life. Across the country, the Afrikaner minority is constructing a private infrastructure network to fill the gaps left by the state. They mix their own asphalt to fix potholes and deploy highly organized private neighborhood watches to secure their streets. Organizations like AfriForum and the Solidarity Movement are the architects of this system. They bypass state education by privately funding independent technical colleges like Soltech, ensuring their youth receive vocational training in their mother tongue, Afrikaans. This mobilization runs on a specific cultural framework captured in the proverb, and Boer Maak, a farmer makes a plan. It describes a mindset of overcoming constraints through improvisation and problem solving without waiting for external support. The standoff over foot-and-mouth vaccines is a collision between a centralized state and a culture that has historically survived by bypassing authority. This reflex began on the isolated 19th century frontier. The Boers, descendants of Dutch, German, and French colonists, lived hundreds of miles from the urban centers of Cape Town. This distance from the British Empire forced them into a life of radical self-reliance. In the 1830s, thousands of families abandoned the British Cape Colony entirely. This great trek into the African interior was a physical and political severing of ties, undertaken to build entirely self-governing agricultural republics. That mindset transformed into tactical ingenuity during the Anglo-Boer Wars. The Boers fought the professional British Army using citizen militias called commandos. Every man provided his own horse and rifle, and they elected their own officers based on personal respect, rather than rigid military rank. At the Battle of Magersfontein in 1899, they neutralized British artillery by anticipating the attack. Instead of occupying the high ground, they dug hidden trenches on the flat ground at the base of the hill. When the British advanced, they were caught in a wall of point-blank fire, an innovation that birthed modern defensive trench warfare. Their technical adaptability was equally visible in their use of heavy artillery. Boer engineers dismantled massive French long-tom siege cannons, hoisted them onto customized ox wagons, and hauled them across rugged mountain passes to bombard British garrisons. This legacy cemented a conviction that the community could survive overwhelming existential threats through decentralized action and sheer improvisation. When the war ended, that resilience shifted from military combat to cultural preservation. Facing the trauma of British concentration camps, their surviving Boers focused on formalizing the Afrikaans language and translating the Bible to ensure their national identity endured. During the apartheid era, rugby became the ultimate physical expression of this identity. The Springbok emblem and the green and gold jersey were more than athletic symbols. They were central pillars of Afrikaner cultural pride. The global community recognized this, using sports boycotts to exert psychological pressure. Being excluded from the Olympics and international tours shattered the domestic illusion that the world accepted their racial policies. The shock arrived during the 1981 tour of New Zealand. Because the matches were broadcast live, the Afrikaner public witnessed the velocity of global hostility. Protesters invaded the pitch and tore down security fences, making the regime's isolation undeniable in every South African living room. In 1995, Nelson Mandela utilized this obsession for a high-stakes act of statecraft. Rather than destroying the Springbok emblem as a relic of oppression, he wore the jersey to the World Cup final. By validating their most cherished symbol, he signaled to the Afrikaner minority that they had a place in the new democracy. Mandela successfully integrated the minority by neutralizing their siege mentality. He proved that the new state did not require the immediate sacrifice of their cultural identity. Today, the transition to democracy hasn't erased the survival ethos, it has redirected it. The drive for independence has moved from political control into private enterprise and community organizing. This shift is driven by modern challenges, complex economic changes, state policies that the community perceives as marginalizing, and the widespread decay of public infrastructure. AfriForum's fight and build strategy is the contemporary version of the pioneer Oxwagon logger. It creates a defensive perimeter of private services to protect the community's future. The strategy mirrors the state. When public safety fails, they mobilize neighborhood watches. When justice stalls, they launch private prosecution units. When education shifts, they build independent colleges. This deliberate mirroring creates friction, especially where private capacity directly challenges state authority over local management. The agricultural foot-and-mouth crisis is the latest test of this model. For the farmers involved, bypassing the government's blockage isn't just about cattle, it's a practical application of their historical self-governance. The Afrikaner trajectory demonstrates that for this community, long-term resilience is built on the physical institutions they create when the state retreats. Whether viewed as controversial or brilliant, it is the result of a culture that has learned to make its own plan.